which is all about what we can term transformative philosophy. This is because I delved into the origin of both Western and Eastern philosophies and revealed both that in the origin of both philosophies, there is a conception of philosophy as a way of life. A philosophy was deeply related or inseparable from the search for happiness.
Forget frequently asked questions.
Common sense, common knowledge, or Google.
How about advice from a real genius? 95% of people in any profession are good enough to be qualified and licensed. 5%
go above and beyond.
They become very good at what they do, but only
0.1%
are real geniuses. Richard Jacobs has made it his life's mission to find them for you. He hunts down and interviews geniuses in every field: sleep science, cancer, stem cells, ketogenic diets, and more. Here come the geniuses. This is the Finding Genius Podcast
with Richard Jacobs.
Hello, this is Richard Jacobs with the Finding Genius Podcast. I have Shai Tubali. He's an author. He's a happiness history expert. We're going to talk about Cosmos and Camus, Llewellyn's complete book of meditation. So Shai is a happiness history expert, which is very unusual, but very interesting. So Shai, welcome. And we'll talk about your background and your current work. How you doing?
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, Richard. I'm delighted to be here.
Okay, well, tell me a bit about your background. How did you become a happiness history expert?
Well, I would say that since 1998, I am a researcher of human consciousness, and I do it both objectively as an academic philosopher and subjectively as a meditation practitioner and student of Eastern philosophy and practice. And the term happiness history expert derives from my PhD thesis, which is all about what we can term transformative philosophy. This is because I delved into the origin of both Western and Eastern philosophies and revealed both that in the origin of both philosophies, there is a conception of philosophy as a way of life. A philosophy was deeply related or inseparable from the search for happiness. So when we understand philosophy as a search for happiness, we also realize that both ancient Western philosophy and Eastern philosophy, they pretty much told us or revealed similar things about what happiness entails and how we can realize it.
Okay, so what are some examples in history of how happiness has been talked about and described?
Well, of course, let's say we can return to, first of all, Greek philosophy, where we often think about Socrates and Plato, for instance, as logicians, philosophers who thought rationally. But really, when we begin to inquire into what Socrates had to offer and what Plato had to offer, we discover that they were mainly interested in how to liberate the soul from the shackles of the physical body, the earthly dimension. So what they actually showed us is how we can liberate ourselves through the power of our own consciousness, the power of our own mind. In their way, of course, it was self-inquiry, investigation, what they called self-knowledge. And they also told us that happiness is all about returning to our original state. This means that we are essentially already happy, but we are not in touch with it. So for that, we only need to remove layers of illusion, layers of attachment, and we don't need to invent the state of happiness. We don't need to achieve it. We rather need to return to it.
Okay. So what are some ways to do that? What are some suggestions on how to, reduce things in your life so you're able to be happy?
Well, that depends. If you're asking Socrates, for instance, one of the ways to be happy is to begin to hold questions and to inquire, which means to begin to acquire some kind of self-knowledge, to question our own beliefs, the way our mind has become entangled in its own illusions, and to return to a state that Socrates considered the state of not knowing, which means bringing the mind to a pure state. Now, of course, when Socrates and Plato talked about this kind of return to our original state, they never discussed meditation. So I think that here the Eastern philosophy and practice, they come to help us by offering to us a practical way to return to our original state of happiness.
Through meditation, or what way? What's the practical way?
Well, if we're talking about Eastern philosophy and practice, yes, this would be meditation and self-inquiry. And of course, meditation includes a wide range of practices, and perhaps we can discuss this.
Yeah, well, sure. Let's go into how to find your happiness, how to meditate, and how to uncover it in your life. Yes.
Well, again, there are many different ways to meditate. If we are returning, for instance, to the Buddha 2,500 years ago, he began by recommending one of the most basic ways of what he termed mindfulness, which was mindfulness of breathing. For the Buddha, breathing was the most essential gateway to reality. So breathing returns us to a state of alignment of body, mind, and breath, which means that when we are beginning to unify body, mind, and breath, we begin to experience a certain state of natural joy. So this is just one gateway. We have many other gateways, but it's always all about increasing the power of our attention, because usually what happens is that our power of attention, our awareness, is robbed off by certain thoughts, by certain emotions, by certain inner illusions and mental chatter. So when we are beginning to separate our awareness, because right now when we discuss, there are two elements in us. One is our attention, and then there is the things we pay attention to. We normally we have lost this kind of distinction. So we have become lost in our stream of thought, in our stream of emotions, in what can be termed the thinking machine. Now, in meditation, we are beginning to distinguish our awareness from the things we pay attention to. And this is the beginning of freedom, because you realize that you don't have to become so automatically identified with a certain element or object of your awareness.
Before we continue, I've been personally funding the Finding Genius podcast for 4.5 years now, which has led to 2,700 plus interviews of clinicians, researchers, scientists, CEOs, and other amazing people who are working to advance science and improve our lives and our world. Even though this podcast gets 100,000 plus downloads a month, we need your help to reach hundreds of thousands more worldwide. Please visit findinggeniuspodcast.com and click on Support Us. We have 3 levels of membership from $10 to $49 a month, including perks such as the ability to see ahead in our interview calendar and ask questions of upcoming guests, transcripts of podcasts you're interested in, the ability to request specific topics or guests, and more. Visit findinggeniuspodcast.com and click Support Us today. Now back to the show.
This sounds a bit general. What's a specific example of how you could use this technique to help you? What's an example from someone that you've worked with, or maybe your own life?
I'm not sure what you mean.
What's an example of in your own life, or with maybe a customer of yours, or someone that you've helped counsel on how to be happier? What was a problem that you faced, or someone that have faced, and how did they calm their mind and get themselves to feel better about it? Do you have any good examples of this?
Of course, yes. I can give a powerful example of a person who who were suffering from certain what he termed inner voices, and because when we think of finding ourselves in a state in which we hear inner voices, we immediately think of rushing to a psychiatrist. Now, what happened was that this person was feeling that there was some kind of external agent in him telling him that he is not worth of living, is not worthy of living, that he should kill himself, and so on and so on. And that was, of course, a disastrous state, and he felt that he was going crazy. Now, as soon as we are beginning to realize through the power of meditation that these voices, and this sounds incredibly simple, that these voices are not something that we have to give power to make them meaningful. Because the thing is that between my attention and my thought, there is a certain gap. In this gap, there is a choice. The choice whether to become identified with this thought or not. And by identifying with this thought, I immediately give meaning to it. I make it powerful. And then at a certain point, it generates momentum and it becomes monstrous. It takes over me. I no longer have the choice. So by reminding this person to return to this gap of choice and to stop giving meaning, to understand that he is the giver of power, he became able to govern, to master his mind, and to return to joy and sanity. Eventually, he has embarked on the meditative journey and has developed much further.
So what's in your book, what are some other methods for people that they can use? Let's say someone's mind is really busy and they can't do meditation. What can they do, or how can they start a meditation?
Yes, this is because we have different needs and different types of brain, different types of inclinations. I've actually offered in this book, the complete book of meditation, 35 meditation techniques, each guiding us toward a very different type of experience, a very different type of revelation. Through this kind of encounter with the range of meditation techniques, we're realizing that meditation is so much more than just sitting silently and serenely and closing our eyes in a, let's say, half lotus posture or full lotus posture. We can actually meditate by walking. We can meditate by dancing. We can go through cathartic breathing, and we can even pray. So there are so many forms of meditation. If you take, for example, what we call the Osho dynamic meditations. Osho was a 20th century mystic, and he developed a set of dynamic meditations because he came to realize that people in the West were just too unstable or too unrelaxed to be able to actually close their eyes and immediately enter meditation. So in these dynamic meditations, you begin to dance or to shake your body or to even cry or to laugh intensely until you're bringing yourself to a state of effortless silence, effortless witnessing, which means that you are separating your awareness from your body and beginning to be able to watch yourself as if from the outside. You have a certain non-attached perspective on yourself.
How long does this normally take for people to do? Is it a very difficult process for people who have busy minds?
That's a very good question, because the beautiful thing, and this is what recent research has shown us, that actually even 5 minutes of meditation on a daily basis could be enough to increase our emotional ability to cope, and also significantly reduce our stress level. So we don't really need to become overly ambitious and to begin to try to push ourselves by wanting to practice for a long time, or practice in a way that disciplines ourselves, and even training ourselves in some kind of practices that are not natural for us. We can actually begin by adding these brief interventions into our daily life. Just 5 minutes of meditation are enough to begin to change the atmosphere of the day. They begin to permeate the day with silence, with relaxation.
Okay, I understand. So, so the environment is critical in order to be able to meditate. No one's going to be able to meditate in the busy environment, or people that have problems to begin with. What can they do to help themselves?
When the environment is stressful.
When the environment is either noisy or quiet, is a quiet environment required for most people?
Yes, I would say that it is good to be able to withdraw from our environment, and sometimes this can happen, for instance, by waking up very early when the world is still asleep, or by meditating at nighttime when the world has fallen asleep. Then you can actually experience yourself distant from the turmoil of the world, and to feel yourself, to develop some kind of intimacy with yourself, to be able to develop this kind of sensitivity that is required for meditation. Now, sometimes it's simply enough to close our room and to use some white noise in order to cover the environmental noises, and to be able to feel that you are able to take a vacation from the world. Because this is, for me, what meditation is. It's simply taking a certain vacation from the world, but also from yourself. Because all day long we are in a certain role. We are someone for somebody, and we are unable to simply be no one and nobody in a state of space and distance from the world. So I think that it is possible to, and especially when we remember that even 5 minutes of meditation, they are not escape from the world, but actually they prepare us for action, which means that if you begin to approach your meditation as something that you are entering in order to be able to better function in the world, that imbues your meditation with a certain intention. This is, otherwise we are just wanting some kind of escape, some kind of momentary silence. This, of course, will not help us to transform our relationship with the world.
What are some of the stumbling blocks you're seeing with people that are trying to, what do you do when someone says, I'm trying to be happy, I just don't know what to do or how to do it? I've heard that a lot from people. Why do people say it like that and exclaim, I'm trying to be happy, in a frustrated and upset tone? Is it that hard?
Trying to be happy?
Yeah.
Well, yes, that's perfectly understandable. The thing is that we're trying to be happy, but we need, first of all, to seriously call into question the ways we are trying to be happy, because most of the ways, and this is what both the ancient Greeks and the ancient Indians told us, is that by trying to be happy by depending on the world, by trying to become successful in the world, or by trying to attain some kind of perfect relationships with people, with loved ones, by being able to make life an island of stability, safety, and happiness, this is just not going to happen. And this is what the first thing that meditation tells us. It tells us there is a great difference between our search for happiness in the world, which is futile. We will actually never achieve it. And the more we pursue it, the further it will move away from us. It will escape us. On the other hand, there is some kind of unconditional joy and what in the world of meditation is termed bliss. Bliss is a very different type of happiness. Bliss is our ability to stop depending on the world for our happiness. And this is, I think, one of the greatest gifts of meditation because you're beginning to develop first, you're developing what we can call unconditional or inner stability. This means that we're not expecting the world to create stability for us to stop changing or to creating for us some kind of a foundation for a lasting state of pleasure and comfort. We are beginning to realize that there is something unchanging in us, something that becomes our axis, that becomes a certain unchanging core. Then we are learning how to develop unconditional joy. And then we're learning how to develop unconditional power. So all these qualities are necessary. And actually, again, happiness is letting go of the wish for happiness in the world. This is the meditative perspective.
Well, very good. Shai, what's the best place for people to learn more about your work? Should they think of a book, or how should they follow you and find out more?
Yes, of course, the book is the best introduction to meditation, but they can also enter the official website, Shai Tubali, ShaitUbali.com. This website includes many blog entries. It includes introduction to my work, to upcoming events, and also my YouTube channel under my name, which contains numerous guided meditations and videos containing explanations about how to integrate the meditative perspective into our daily life.
Okay. Well, very good. Shai, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and talking about happiness, which many people don't think about. It's a critical thing.
Right, I agree.